Hi, everybody. This is day 1705. 1705 days since Richard was premeditatedly, systematically targeted and retaliated against and murdered on Fort Bliss for being a whistleblower, for against and murdered. I don't know if I'm allowed to use that word. you know, we need to have free speech. We need to have free speech, definitely. Uh, guarded, I guess. I don't know. It's just crazy what's happening. So just so much going on behind the scenes. Today we're going to talk about Joe Spencer and his role in Richard's case. And, you know, everyone needs to understand that Richard was a whistleblower and that he was a whistleblower. His case came first before the Walmart mass shooting on August 3rd, 2019. And that after that, many things had to happen politically because it was absolutely a political retaliation. And it was first and foremost, President Trump was targeted. It was absolutely a narrative, a false narrative, targeting President Trump at the time. You saw that with Representative Veronica Escobar, who's absolutely, she's so up to no good. And of course, Beto O'Rourke was running for, trying to run for president at the time. And it was very clear that from our investigation over 4 years, that first and foremost, the target was President Trump, that this was political, because when you become president, you are the chief magistrate. You are the chief law enforcer. You are the commander in chief of our military. Um, so look at these executive orders. This is what they were fearing. And they did not want him as president. It clearly, whether you like President Trump or not, whether you're confused about what he's doing with Doge or not, or it seems like more and more people are becoming MAGA. More and more people are understanding the fraud, how our country has been taken advantage of, us included. Us included. We had a little bit more of a front seat because we are a military family, a very long, dedicated military family, um, almost 80 years in combined service just in these last 3 generations. Um, Rob, 30 years, 30-year veteran. And so lots of deployments. And um, after that, close relationship with the military. And so we always kept up with what was going on in the military. And so we understand um, the contracts, we understand the profit of war, we understand um, the insanity and the withdrawal of Afghanistan at Abbey Gate. We understand um, um, Benghazi, the absolute insanity there, and the part that the media played. We know that uh, from, God's hand has been all over this because um, I was born at White Sands, went to school in El Paso, but not only was my father in ADA and in Europe also, of course, we were always winding up at Fort Bliss. Um, but also my husband's side of, family has a long history there at Biggs, at, right there in El Paso. And of course, my parents being German, we have all the connections with the German American Club there on Fort Bliss because of the German Army being stationed there, or Air Force or Luftwaffe. Um, and so, of course, most of my life spending in Europe and a big part of it in Germany, understanding the what's going on, the politics in Europe, being there when the whole euro change, the Teuro came in, which means an expensive euro, the expensive euro, the Teuro, the inflation. Um, and we understand that. We understand all the politics, and how things are very misrepresented. My parents spent 9 years in Russia in the American embassy there in Moscow. My mother worked for the American embassy for adoptions. Um, my father was an all-purpose uh, fix it, get everything together. He served there in the embassy for that. They whatever they needed fixed, whatever. That was his job. And so he got to meet some amazing people. But we also got to learn a lot about the politics, right? About the politics. And when they first went over there, it was still communist. They got to see the whole change, the Iron Curtain coming down, and being there, and my dad working um, to start the very first, uh, um, um, what do you call it? The hardware store, the first hardware store, Star Hardware Store in Moscow, because people couldn't even, during the communist times, couldn't even get a can of paint. Um, so, knowing the politics of it and being in Europe and seeing the Iron Curtain coming down, and for me, with my own eyes, going to Dresden, seeing the changes in Eastern Germany, month after month, and seeing the Frauenkirche, which it was the big cathedral, the domed cathedral, double bell cathedral there in Dresden, to see that it was bombed to smithereens in World War II, and they rebuilt it. They rebuilt it, and I was absolutely so fortunate. It makes me cry thinking about it because it was such a fortunate opportunity to experience a rebuilding of such a building. You have to go and look for yourself and what it took to do that, and to also to tithe, to give money towards building that building. We absolutely were so grateful and privileged and blessed to have been part of that. Just by giving some money, because the workmanship and everything that went into that, and to be able to go to Poland and adopt Robert and Richard. Yes, Richard is adopted from Poland, to experience months there, and God just prepared us with dealing with a lot of people in our lives, to be patient, to be, you know, I, g- uh, what do I say? Understanding that politics are a big play in this, that also that people are capable of incredible scamming and conning. Um, that there are people that have no moral compass at all, that will absolutely do the worst type of crimes to children, that will absolutely tamper with documents, that will absolutely lie to your face for their own personal gain, and that they will manipulate media and they will manipulate, um, every circumstance around, um, to shift blame and, play politics. We saw that in so many places, and in so many experiences from, my mom's time as in the adoption agency, my dad's time in the, um, well, both of them in the embassy, and with Rob in the military, and in the adoption process, and just uh, the 2008 um, European bank implosion, um, and all the scamming that was going on during that time, especially the bailouts of the banks, and everything, and leaving the people hanging with the debt. You had the pigs. Remember the pigs? Portugal, Ireland, Italy, Greece, Spain. That the property is just, and we experienced that here in the United States and Florida. Florida really experienced that, where you were underwater with your mortgage and all of that. And the recovery of that, which was really just a recovery for the banks, not really for the people or the economy. Um, we absolutely, um, over and over and over again, with Iraq, with um, Afghanistan, with Saudi Arabia, with all the experiences, going into Moldova. Rob went into Moldova, in Albania. He was in Albania, deployed. You know, um, Dealing with all the contracts and everything. We just God prepared us for what we would face in Richard's case. And we were patient to see. We didn't want to jump the gun. We wanted to know what was going on before. We were very suspicious behind the scenes about everything, naturally, because nothing made sense. And we were also suspicious with, um, those that were fishing for information, because we absolutely knew that they were up to no good fishing. Well, we thought, there's a chance that they were up to no good, and now we know, we've confirmed that they were up to no good fishing for information. And some things I was very naive with, but I was still um, careful, and Rob covered me on those things, or very good friends. Um, and Some things that Rob was naive with, I covered him with that, and some very good friends. So we've really gotten through this with a lot of preparation, and that's why we feel that we have to share everything with you now, because it's all coming together. It's coming together. And it really started coming together in January of 2022. We received a phone call from Judge Roger Rodriguez. Of course, we had the whole Nadal Baim, that the Palestinian that is the father-in-law of Lieutenant Colonel Bradford Bugado, the G3 of the 32nd ADCOM, that said that Richard's remains were in Mexico, found in Mexico by the FBI, and that was a secret. We caught him on CCTV footage, thanks to very courageous people that are on the top of our list. We have not forgotten about those people. And that was a huge, huge thing, um, because we were told that he was a nobody. And of course, because it was all the mandates at that time, um, and he was wearing a mask, we did not know who he was. We had to um, dig and dig and dig and dig, because the command would not tell us, and the FBI would not tell us who this man was. And no wonder, no wonder, because he is a Palestinian with a record, with a terroristic threats. I think that's what it is. He has a record, um, and he has connections with Richard's command, right? With Richard's command, and more so. And so when we found that out, who he was, and knowing that the command had lied to us, absolutely lied to us, um, that confirmed that what we were up against, that Richard absolutely was a whistleblower. We knew that from starting with Boleyn Rocha and then more and more and more people confirming that Richard was a whistleblower. And they, you know, um, it absolutely, why would they do what they did unless he was a whistleblower and he was being retaliated against because his unit absolutely needs to, all of them need to be investigated again. And I would say the highest crimes, um, uh, there is a real possibility that I would say those crimes are so big. I don't want to jump the gun on what kind of penalty I feel like they should get because of what they've done. But I think it's like treason, right? I think it's treason, and I think for me, being the mother, now you have to understand where I'm coming from, being the mother of knowing what they've done to my son for treason. Yeah, I think that the death penalty absolutely is necessary for that option, right? It's necessary, absolutely. And and for today, talking about Joe Spencer, it's just going to shock you. It's just jaw dropping what I'm about to tell you. And I've hinted at it a little bit by a little chart that I put up. Um, but you see, when everything changed in January of 2022 when Judge Roger Rodriguez called us because he called us to notify us, not the command, not FBI, not CID, no, not other agencies, because he absolutely submitted his whistleblower complaint to many different agencies. It wasn't a courtesy from them. They didn't do their duty. It was from Judge Roger Rodriguez. He is the only one that notified us that he submitted a official whistleblower complaint in his official capacity, that identified the prime suspects in our son's murder case. And of course, one of those being a CID agent, right? A CID agent. And the other being the mother of Richard's platoon leader, which, then identified Richard's platoon leader, who had not been identified to us before then, even though all the others were identified to us, but the platoon leader was left out. But now we knew who the platoon leader was, Dallas Hart, and then we confirmed it with multiple witnesses, that Dallas Hart was in fact Richard's platoon leader. So, you know, so then we were um, absolutely for sure that this was a cover up. This was an absolute cover up. And it had something to do with politics, of course, the whistleblowing, and then looking into it more and putting things together with Danae Katzen. Danae Katzen. So Danae Katzen was very early on, um, because as soon as we got there, it wasn't like a couple days after we got there in September that she contacted us. She targeted us, and her mission was to mislead us, right? Was to mislead us about our son. And we called her, we didn't know, because it was very, very early on. Like I said, we were very patient. We were, and you can even hear it in my calling her after like a month of not hearing from the CID about interviewing her and everything. Maybe it was like 2 weeks after she had first how I have to look at the whole timeline after she had first contacted us, and no response from the CID, no response in the KTSM did cover it, but they blocked her out and they wanted to protect her and all of that. And Danae Katzen Gonzalez Zambriz is a family member to Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, 3905 Bliss Avenue. And we have evidence that totally backs that up. And also, um, family connected to Belen Rocha. Okay. Which, wowzer, wowzer. Um, but Danae Katzen, um, and Belen also reached, targeted us, reached out to us, tried to give us a false narrative. Um, Danae was a little better at it than uh, Belen. Belen, I don't know, so young at that time. She was so young. You could tell that they had really done her wrong. They did her wrong. She was so young. And, I don't know, people call it grooming. People call it grooming. I don't know. Um, and it just gets worse and worse and worse and worse, right? And of course, it got worse and worse and worse and worse for her. So, and now, I don't know what she's going to be facing. It's really bad because she's a criminal now. She's already assault with a deadly weapon, I think it was. I mean, all kinds of stuff. So Belen has had a very, very hard time since all of this. And that's not me saying feeling sorry for her at all. I'm not feeling sorry for her at all. The hard time is of her own doing. Um, and I guess because of this grooming, you could blame whoever on it, but I would say law enforcement. But even law enforcement, even though they just couldn't cover up for her enough, right? They couldn't cover, so she got into trouble. You can only cover up for a person so much, right? And they tried to do their best, and I guess with their compromised system there, because it is very compromised. Um, but Danae Katzen, was a little bit more. Um, I guess she's a little older. She was a little older, and she was a little bit more. On and on with this fraud, with the fraud, and she's been on the 10 most wanted, I think, 4 times now for fraud, for fraud, for the credit cards, for theft, theft and big theft and everything. And and I think it's much worse than what they're telling us because they could only cover up so much, right? And then they try to control this, and of course KTSM is her family, right? KTSM is her family, and so or a family connected, and also she has cartel ties. So Rosa Maria Valdez is cartel tied. Absolutely, there is. Uh, we have hard evidence that they're cartel tied, and then of course, they're also connected to Mario Raskin Ortiz, the medical examiner, the chief medical examiner, right? Who's making, more than $430,000 a year on taxpayers illegally, and he is not qualified. Um, and, so that tells you that these people are high rollers. They are in suits. They are politicians. They are lawyers, right? They are lawyers. And they have this common denominator of being connected to the Mormon congregation. And, like Felix Valenzuela. Felix Valenzuela is on Joe Spencer's defense team for Patrick Crusius, the alleged shooter in the Walmart mass shooting. Um, and so, this is one of the ways, this is just one of the ways that Richard's case is connected to the Walmart mass shooting. And we have acquired, because of all of the work that we have been doing behind the scenes, audio recordings, just like CCTV footage of Nadal Baim, and audio video of the cashier. And we have mountains of robust evidence, which includes a lot of audio, a lot of video, a lot of documents. We've been working very, very hard behind the scenes, and I don't just say that. I'm not fooling anyone. I'm telling you that's what's been going on. And part of that was to acquire these audio recordings of Joe Spencer, audio recordings that are years old, okay, of Joe Spencer. And Joe Spencer is the main defense attorney for Patrick Crusius, but he's really not. That's a ruse. That is an absolute ruse. Um, because his actions now have absolutely showed that, something is stinky, very, very stinky. And, you know, he absolutely was not on Patrick Crusius's side. Okay. And, a defense attorney that gets paid a lot of money, millions and millions of dollars from taxpayers' money, because remember, when they uh, applied for an attorney for representation, they were applying for, the public to pay for it, and said that Patrick Crusius had 0.000000000, not a farthing, not a half penny, nothing. He did not have, a piece of shot to his name. So they say, not anything. And zero, just goose eggs all the way across, all the way down. And we have absolutely posted that document. Um, and he signed it, Patsy. Patsy. God has just a way of telling us what he is. And I am absolutely convinced that Patrick Crusius is a patsy. Okay. Absolutely convinced that Patrick Crusius is a patsy. And especially after the last few days, right? I mean, but I was for a long time. I made that video before then. And so I'm very, very convinced. We're very convinced here that he's a patsy. Now, because of the Michael Mayella discovery. Now, this was an amazing discovery. It was a hand of God. We happened upon doing research for the Santa Teresa International Jetport. It led us to a El Paso Matters July 29th, 2020 article. And in that article, we discovered that Michael Mayella, the federal courthouse manager, was and I might be telling you too much, but I want you to know God's hand on all of this. It absolutely, God wants accountability in this, okay? Because He's brought us this far. Just the discovery of who Nadal Baim is, just Judge Roger Rodriguez in his official capacity to be a whistleblower in Richard's case to identify the suspects is it's a miracle, and everything that's happened in our lives, and that God wants accountability eh, for El Paso. God wants accountability for Fort Bliss, and God wants accountability for um, all the victims um, that that weaponized judicial system has caught. Really, I think the cries have cried out so much, and here we are. And so here we look at this article from El Paso Matters. I mean, you just can't make this stuff up, um, because it just their legitimacy just, keeps sinking. You think how, it can't get any lower than this, and it gets lower and it gets lower. They are absolutely up to no good. They are absolutely in the depths of darkness, really. They really are. They're just they're terrible. They're absolutely terrible. El Paso Matters, El Paso Community Foundation, and Bob Moore and Angela Kachurga at KTEP. And so all this defunding is making us, it's like, yeah, yeah, it's making sense. It's making sense because you've got to stop this plague, this pollution that they are. They are just a plague and a pollution on the beautiful city of El Paso and Fort Bliss, of course, Fort Bliss. So um, when that happened, when we found that article that which revealed that Michael Mayella, the federal courthouse manager's daughter, married Patrick Crusius's brother, Brian Blake Crusius, it's like, what? What? And of course, we had to turn that in. But it wasn't just that Patrick Crusius's brother was, right there in the federal courthouse, marrying the courthouse manager's daughter. It was that Michael Mayella's son, Michael Mayella Jr., was, had his hand all over the computers there in the DA's office under Jaime Esparza, which we knew had a huge conflict of interest, right? And who was there with his hands all over the computers when James Montoya was there, and also Priscilla Mata. So this is really a very important, very important, because not only was he there in the DA's office, he was in the FBI's office with where the leaks were that were risking Judge Roger Rodriguez because Jesus Nieto leaked the complaint to uh, the CID agent, to Leilani Hart, right? Um, and his name. And so when January 2023 came around, and Bill Hicks took office at the DA's, full on retaliation happened for Judge Roger Rodriguez and for us. And for us. That's when all of it started. You can go back and look when we were getting full on retaliation, um, trying to intimidate and all the threats and everything. That's when that happened. Um, so that really, really tells you who Bill Hicks is, the usurper, right? The usurper, and also with cartel ties right there, even in the DA's office, which we have confirmed. Um, so, uh, this is huge because here, moving forward, to the last few days where Joe Spencer now, um, uh, under the same pressure as Judge Guadarrama, because you see, with Michael Mayella being exposed and Michael Mayella Jr. being exposed and Patrick Crusius, his brother, being exposed, and Patrick Crusius not being, like not having family here in El Paso, that was the narrative, right? Um, but Joe Spencer absolutely knows that Patrick Crusius has family right here in El Paso in the federal courthouse. Okay. Not only in the federal courthouse, but in the DA's office. Not only in the DA's office, but in the FBI's office. And get this, Michael Mayella Jr. worked for Walmart security. So that was a really big deal. And Judge Guadarrama knew that. There is no way that he didn't know that. Um, I mean, come on. Um, so uh, those kind of reports had to be submitted. Those, we had to let everyone know. Otherwise, we would be accomplices to this cover up, right? And President Trump just put out, you cannot, when we knew that cartel is part of this, and absolutely it's Sinaloa cartel, along with the Juarez cartel, that you can't aid and abet. You have to report, right? You have to report. So this is, a huge reason why we believe, especially since James Montoya came out and said that Patrick Crusius would not be sentenced to the death penalty. That was just a jaw dropper, right? We knew that that was a jaw dropper. Um, and we were very happy about it. We were very happy because the case, the people of El Paso and the taxpayers, federal, all of us taxpayers, have been charged enough for this case, and Patrick Crusius is sentenced to 90 life. Back to back life sentences, which is almost 7,000 years. I mean, how much more are you going to give him, right? How much more? You either take his life or, how much more are you going to give him? So we were really shocked, but we were, okay, what's happening? Um, but then um, S- Joe Spencer has been making his rounds on KVIA. And remember, we have the audios, right? We have the audios and we have robust mountain of evidence, right? Lots of documentation and everything. So we have a pretty good view of a pretty good idea of all the, the scene now. You have most of the puzzle pieces in there. And so you can pretty much tell what's going on. And so we have the audio, we have Loretta Lynn Hewitt's, we have Richard's case. Uh, and so here, Joe Spencer is making his rounds. He's going to Kavia and having the interview, which he's admitting that on two things, two big accounts, that Patrick Crusius is autistic with a severe mental health condition. Um, uh, you know, we have him saying he's autistic on the audio. He's confirming that our audios are correct, that when he met him, um, that he said, "Look, my name is Joe Spencer, and my name might be Spencer, but I'm Hispanic. My ASS is 100% brown. Do you have a problem with that? And and Patrick Crucius, no, I don't have a problem with it, or no, I'm not into racism. So we have those recordings that he now authenticated, right? He authenticated with this cavia. But what he did was absolutely confess that he has been just so, because he is very close to Bob Moore, right? Very close to Bob Moore. There is not a problem for him to say, "Look, Bob, um, Patrick Crucius isn't a white supremacist. He's not racist. He's mentally ill. He's severely mentally. He has a severe mental health condition, as Judge Guadarrama so stated." And they absolutely had to do that. Um, and he admitted that, so he's not racist, and he's not well in his head, right? So those are the two huge things. But then he goes on um to Telemundo. And Telemundo, he does a video interview, and it's in Spanish. So, for Spanish speakers, God bless you. Please go to it. Please watch it. And I've always meant to translate a lot of things that I'm doing into Spanish and into German. If you ever feel that you're doing that, please share that on the comments. Just put it in the other language. I think it's so important because this is an international case, but it's just we are just we're doing a lot behind the scenes, a lot behind the scenes. So any kind of help we can get, we're very, very appreciative for. Any kind of sharing, we're very, very appreciative for. So any kind of comments. So that is huge. Of course, we have very, very good family. We're an international family, so we have Spanish speakers. Um, so we really assessed I don't speak Spanish myself. Um, and that was too bad when we went over to Juarez. That was too bad. Um, wow. God's hand. It's all in God's timing, right? Because I look back to things that happened over there because of what happened in the attorney general's office over there, and it's criminal, absolutely criminal. Anyway, um, so uh, we looked at Joe Spencer's Telemundo um, interview, and there, wow, it's just like, what? So he does it again. Um, he does some really, really spinning. He's spinning so fast. I don't think he can stand up and walk. He's spinning this story every which way, up and down, all around. Does he have the cartel to his right, the cartel to his left, the cartel on top of him, the cartel below him, cartel all around him, in front of him, behind him? Does he have that? Because he's just spinning so fast. It's just it is insane, insane again. And so what was Joe Spencer doing? Well, first and foremost, something that most people will not get when they watch it, and I want to stress this. He defends Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia and Danae Katzen. He defends those that are suspects in our son's murder case. And I think that is very important. And how so does he do that? Okay? Because he targets Yvonne Rosales. He targets Yvonne Rosales for and saying that she threatened a family, okay, and mentions that case. Well, that case is Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia. So if you don't know that, you're missing what he's doing. You're thinking it is just one of those very sad victims' families that have been so played by Joe Spencer. That you might be thinking that, right? But this is who he's defending are the very individuals that targeted our son and our family, and that family had Richard's credit cards after Richard had been was deceased. Okay? That's the nicest way I can say it. And they have cartel ties. So he is defending a family that has cartel ties, that is had targeted our family, our son, had Richard's credit cards um, after he was deceased. But not only that, are fraudsters. Danae Katzen, 4 times on the 10 most wanted fraudsters, and then Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia and her family. Absolutely. She is an imposter. She is an imposter widow. How sick can you get? An imposter widow to collect benefits on the Walmart mass shooting victims fund that came from mostly all Americans, right? That their heart poured out, or even the taxpayers' money went into this fund on more than $12 million, right? And she goes back to Mexico and calls for a boycott on the United States of America. And collects on this money with fraud, with the apostille. She jumps through all kinds of hoops that normal people don't even know to commit this fraud. And don't forget all of the things that Danae was saying. I don't know if I ever posted it. Her interview with Phil Waters, right? It's just so telling because they absolutely are document tamperers, absolutely fraudsters when it comes to manipulating the system and documents. And and you see that with her charges, she's in big trouble. I'm not making anything up. We've got all the documents to prove it. I reposted the apostille. This is a family that will pose as a widow, right? That will be an imposter, jump through all kinds of hoops to do it, right? To collect benefits, a lot of benefits. I think hundreds of thousands of dollars went to her family from that money, and then more and more. And then goes back all this fraud. She uses Texas notaries, right? El Paso notaries, a family that like to notarize their own work, right? Oh yeah, I'm going to translate this. Okay, honey, I'll notarize it for you and then we can get it to the apostille to the Secretary of State and then they can do the apostille for the translation and then we can commit fraud to get this money. Um and why, because she had divorced the decedent in 2001. And then when you look at all the dates, she was pretty quick. She saw that money rolling in for the victims and she wanted a piece of it. And so she was absolutely willing to commit fraud. So not only did this family target Richard and our family and committed fraud on the people of the United States, on even the victims, right? The victims, the true victims in the Walmart case. And Joe Spencer just defended her and threw Yvonne Rosales out to the wolves again. Instead of telling people that Yvonne Rosales, as a DA, had the right to investigate and call out Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia and her family for what they were doing. For what they were doing, that they absolutely needed to be investigated. It was not a threat, it was a legitimate investigation. And of course, when you're dealing with a con family, they conned, and they're also cartel connected, right? So it's interesting that some media would favorably cover them. It's very interesting. Especially, we know that they are family connected to KTSM. And we know that that buddy is buddies with Bob Moore. And I just, you see what's happening. He just defended, is that aiding and abetting a T organization? Is that what that is? That's why that's so big, because that's my question. That's our question in our family. Did he just aid and abet? Not only aiding and abetting suspects in the death of a U.S. Army soldier whistleblower, but also to a cartel tied criminal trafficking organization that President Trump now has designated the Sinaloa cartel as the T organization. So, that's huge news. Huge. So what else did he do in this Telemundo? It's very short, but it is just full of, and probably tomorrow something else will jump out at us. But he targeted President Trump. Not only did he target DA Yvonne Rosales, who they did a number on her. They really did a number on her. But she could do a defamation on him, though. I don't know if she will, but she could do a defamation on him. Absolutely. Um, and President Trump, uh, I don't know why they're bringing this up again. Is that the only thing they have? Is to try to spin this to blame President Trump again? And saying that Patrick Crusius, oh no, he's not a racist. Oh no, he is really mentally ill, right? He has not mentally ill. He has a severe mental health condition. That's the right terminology, right? We know he's autistic. We have all of the evidence that he is that, to back up what I first suspected that led, it's just, we've been right all along, right? We've been right all along. And, not only, but now he's saying, uh, you know, we're so courageous that we hope that the El Paso people will now understand that Patrick Crucius will live his entire life in prison and he won't leave until he leaves in a box. We hope we're so courageous, right? After milking them for millions and millions of dollars and lying and scheming and conning and defending the likes of Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia and her family, including Danae Katzen, and then to blame President Trump. I mean, he is how low he got so low. He's so low. I need to redo that whole meme where he's not just falling off the horse, he's falling down into the depths of despair where he's gnashing his teeth. He's so low. It's just today was, and I haven't even gotten to this best part of the, is it a best part? To this major part when he's so low. He's spinning. He's spinning around. He's getting dizzy. He's getting dizzy. That's why he's not thinking right. Because they're making him spin. Spin it to blame President Trump? Are you kidding me? At this point? And you know, not even mentioning Jaime Esparza. That's the thing that just jumped up out. He didn't mention Jaime Esparza, who he allowed and made a deal. Oh, he allowed to be on the case for almost 2 years to do nothing because he had a conflict of interest because his sister was at the Walmart. And Jaime Esparza was working with Michael Mayella Jr. Oh my God. It's just so, that doesn't even mention that. There's so much here in just this little clip. And he's like, "Oh yeah, he's so mentally he's broken or his mind's full of potato mush or I don't know." I've heard so much stuff in the last few days. That he's standing 14 hours talking to someone that's, not even there and he's gone. He's a goner. That's what Joe Spencer is saying. He doesn't even visit Patrick Crucius because it amounts to nothing because he is so mentally, his mental health condition is so severe that you can't even really communicate with him. And, we're getting that he wasn't, he was 18 before he even tied his shoes. That's the reports. I don't know. I don't know. Was he? Can you imagine if he was 18 years old when he finally tied his shoes, and they're saying that he could carry out that kind of shooting, that he could carry out that kind of shooting and do that much harm with a clip of 30 bullets. One clip, there was no other clips on him, right? And then he was clean shoes, and then Joe Spencer saying, "Oh, but there was so much blood." Well, he was and when you listen to what Ernest Christopher Grant, and I'm sorry I get excited. I don't know how else to give you this. It's just so emotional. Ernest Christopher Grant is like point blank, full of hate, all this stuff. And Christopher Cuomo is like, yeah, El Paso strong. It's just all so orchestrated and it's so evil because look at the victims. And I know. I get fidgety. I get fidgety because it's so evil. I'm just, get get behind me, Satan, on this whole thing. But yeah, I really, at this point, I believe that Patrick Crucius was a patsy. No way did he have the skill set, the mental capacity, the uh, enough bullets, the evidence. They didn't even bag his hands for the gunpowder. Are you kidding me? Um, yeah, so I believe he was the patsy. And of course, when you think about Glendon Oakley Jr. and what Glendon Oakley Jr. Saw and said, and also so many other witnesses, um, and I put up the article that is just a major article. I thought to tell you about this case, and I just think he's a patsy. And there's this last, well, it's not the last, it's just another additional piece of evidence. The big piece of evidence that Joe Spencer will never be able to spin. How can he spin that he never ever once in over 6 years? Is it 6 years? Over 6 years? Is it that long? Okay. Almost 6 years. Uh, in all these years, never once did he request, that is legally to do a mental health evaluation. Never once. Never once. And, or did it come later? Someone correct me. Someone correct me. Um, where is the mental health evaluation of Patrick Crucius? The state mental health evaluation. Yeah, it's not there. And that's such a red flag. There's all these red flags. I mean, it's starting to look like I'm putting in a sprinkler system here. Red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. Just red flags everywhere. Joe Spencer absolutely has confessed to the worst type of crimes. In my opinion, he just confessed to the worst type of crimes. And to blame President Trump, blaming him in 2019, blaming him now in 2025, it's just outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. So, if you have any questions, it has been absolutely crazy behind the scenes to evaluate everything going on, to do the investigation, but that's what they told us to do. They told us if you want to figure out what happened to your son, you're going to have to do the investigation yourself. And they were right. And now we turn it in, and we are getting institutional support, and that's why you're seeing what you're seeing. Um, and we'll, yeah, the first thing that needs to happen, and we don't know which one is going to happen, but we believe that no matter what, for these worst type of crimes committed against children, a confession that has been notarized, um, all her criminal history, Leilani Hart needs to be arrested. There's so much crime there. There's so much crime that is all documented. The FBI has no excuse. It's all there for them on a silver platter. They just have to go and arrest her. Okay? So it's looking like that with Joe Spencer. It's getting like that with Joe Spencer. And we're not the only ones that get it. And we've been doing this major investigation. right? She's audio and documents, and I mean, just so much robust mountain of evidence, right? Um, but people that were commenting on the Telemundo and people that were commenting on Kvia, they are no, I mean, they get it. They get it. This was for an open checkbook. This was for an open checkbook. It was not to defend Patrick Crucius, or I don't even, I want to say the defense lawyer, for all the money he was getting, he did a absolute rotten job. And he should at least have done a mental health evaluation on Patrick Crucius. And he needed to do a better job, because now, think about this. I believe there are shooters that are out at large, that are at large. And who knows who they are and what harm that they've done. And I hope to God that they weren't involved in both the Walmart mass shooting and what happened to our son Richard. Because for their negligence in 2019 to allow the perpetrators to continue to walk the streets and do their jobs, I pray to God, because of Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia and Danae Katzen and Jonathan Ambrose having direct connections to Richard's unit. Wow. You see, the Walmart mass shooting and Richard's case are totally intertwined. And the truth is coming out. Thank you so much, Anicia, for coming on. God bless you. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing. And please share.